Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's nice to see who is online with us and where you're from. So thanks for typing that in the chat. I'm Kim Larson. I welcome you to this week's Stay Connected webinar on behalf of the Get Connected conference partners. This week, we are really excited to have Megan Crawford joining us. She's the project director in the Broken Bow After School program, and she has done quite a lot with her staff around a book study on the Other Wes Moore. So I'm going to let Megan and Jan Handa will be co-facilitating this conversation today. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away. Thanks.
Thanks, Kim. And Kim is going to be helping us out here. She'll be monitoring the chat for us. So as we go along, if you've got comments or questions or things that you would like to share, you can either speak up if you'd like to. We're going to take some intentional breaks, so there'll be some places where we'll ask you for feedback or if you have things that you'd like to share, but you're also welcome to put that into the chat. And as we go along, there will be some resources and links that we're going to be sharing also in the chat, so you want to probably open that up and be all ready for that. What we're going to be talking about today, as Kim said, is this resource, The Other Wes Moore. And just to be sure everybody knows what that is, if you registered for the Get Connected conference last fall, part of your registration fee included a link to the audiobook, The Other Wes Moore. So if you are one of those people, we want to kind of bring you, show you what are some possibilities for ways that you might use that, especially if you're a project director. But I also want to encourage you, if you did attend the conference and you have yet to even activate the link, it's not too late. So if you would like to have that link sent to you again, it's yours. You paid for it with your registration fee, and our office assistant, Sherry Landis, will be happy to send you that link again. That's yours and yours to keep. So don't hesitate if you need to have that sent to you again. So I'm going to turn this over to Megan. She's going to talk to you about her professional development over the past several months and how that evolved and took shape once she got going. So Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm Megan Crawford. I'm part of the Super Kids Club after school program in Broken Bow. I've been with the program for about 6.5 years. I've been the director for 5. We serve K through 5. And I kind of want to tell you about our staff demographics before we start so that you kind of know where we're coming from with our training here. I have 50 to 75% of our staff high school students. So that means they are first-time jobs, or they have had minor jobs before, and they're coming to us with an interest in working with kids or education in the future. I also have a couple of school day paras that work with us. And then I do have quite a few community members. So those are members of the community who, like, they don't have any other job. They're usually not retirement age yet, but are getting there, 50s, 60s. And their passion is just to work with kids and make a difference in those kids' lives. So that's kind of where our staff is at. And that's why we focused on this. What we did was we made 7 30-minute discussions that utilize the Other Wes Moore plus these other resources that we're going to talk about to refocus our staff on making positive connections. That's what we tell our staff we want them to do every day, is make positive connections. So kind of what our philosophy is we build staff so that they can build kids. So it's our job to make sure that staff come in, they know why they're there, they know what they want to do with their lives, and they know the impact that they can create and that they are creating with these kiddos. Engaged staff is how you build kiddos and families, honestly. So with that kind of philosophy in mind, we had all of our staff attend the Get Connected After School conference because it was online, and most of those videos you could watch when you weren't, in school, or you could do on your own time. A lot of the videos that I talk about today all come from LaRon Henderson. And he has made a huge impact on our program, and I bet he doesn't even know it. I see Acacia's like, yeah. He's a really cool guy. You should listen to his videos. They're awesome. The first video that I want to talk about is Who Said You Can Teach, or Who Said You Could Teach. So in this video, he talks about how to know your why. So that was super important because our staff needed to know, why are they here? Sometimes their why started out because they're high school kids. So sometimes their why started out as like, well, I'm here because I like playing with the kids, or I like getting to see the kids every day and giving them a high five and making them happy. So, those sorts of like, here is where we start and build on that to make sure that they know that they are what make our program successful. They also, that talk also, or I guess it's a discussion, you can rewatch the video on the Get Connected web link on there. So, oh yes, it's right here. Kim put it in the chat box. Who said you could teach? So you can rewatch that video. In it, he also talks about, are you a part of the community or just a staff member? And so that was super important because you being a part of that kiddo's community help teaches that kiddo that they can trust you, that you are invested in them, and so therefore they want to be invested in the program. He also talks, so he gave this story. He looked at possibilities. Okay, so what possibilities are we giving kids? He gave this story about 2 7-year-old girls who were playing pretend at the after school program. And one little girl was buying groceries and the other little girl was supposed to be bringing the groceries out. So the little girl who was buying groceries was putting all of her things up on the conveyor belt, and the little girl who was checking them out took some of them and she was like, you can't get that. You can't get that. You can't get that. And the little girl who was buying groceries was like, yes, I can. And so when they asked the checkout girl, why can't she get that? She said, because you can't get those with food stamps. So seeing, our kids come into our programs and they have this like life experience that they have, okay? And it's different for every kiddo depending on what challenges that they're facing in their homes. So understanding their culture, where they're coming from, helps us make better connections. It helps us help them see possibilities. Our staff and another piece to that video is that our staff and students both have their experiences that they're coming in with, and they both play off of each other so that they can broaden each other. So while we're broadening our kids are also broadening our perspectives.
Together, they are the bricks
video,
and mortar of brain architecture.
This video, Who Said You Could Teach, was the one discussion that made the most impact with my staff. So if you only choose one video from today to share as a staff, that would be the video that I would share. The second video that they watched was Who Invited You Anyway? Culture Over Compromise. When we're talking about how we impact each other, we're talking about culture. So to do this, to be able to understand how to communicate with our kids, our staff had to understand what culture is and how does that culture affect our understanding of where their kids are coming from and our kids' understanding of us. And once you understand where they're coming from, it affects your communication. It affects how you work with those kiddos. We used the Other Wes Moore and these 2 videos, plus some other stuff that we'll talk about later. We used all of these things to examine the culture of our students and families, but also of ourselves. Because in order to build relationships, to make connections with our kids, we have to understand where they're coming from and how we can best help them see the possibilities that lie before them. So we pulled discussion topics and focused on challenges our students and families are going through from the Other Wes Moore. There are tons of different social topics that you can pull from that book. The 4 main ones that we pulled were like poverty, addiction, teen pregnancy, and single parent homes. Some other topics that we pulled were things that focused on ourselves. So we asked the staff to reflect on themselves. And so those topics are things like, how do students act when they feel ignored or disliked? Where do labels come from? How many chances are we required to give kiddos, and what kind of boundaries do we set, and what do we do after we've crossed them? So all of those were used to have these discussions. There was a discussion printout that was included, right, Jan, with the resources for the conference. We took those questions and we pulled out the parts that applied to us, but we left anything that didn't. Those questions were super easy to tailor to my program. Okay. First of all, that's sort of how we, where we're coming from and how we put this, why we put this together. Does anybody have any comments, questions, experiences with your staff or your kiddos and families that you want to share? You can unmute
I have
yourself.
one question. I have a question, Megan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. When your staff, I'm curious, did your staff independently listen to the book, or did you guys, like, how did that happen where your entire staff, you said they would read it or listen to it? Did they do it together or independently, or how did that work?
So we did it separately. I actually went ahead and bought a physical copy of the book. I had the staff members use that link that they got with the conference, and they were asked to read the book or listen to the book before our first discussion. So all of them came with their own impressions of the book to that first discussion. And then I used the like paper copy of the book, and I read I read certain sections out of it aloud to them during our discussions to kind of help them remember what's going on, and to also, so that they have their own personal experiences, but then they're also getting the group experience. So that's how we do it.
And I will thank you, Kim, for putting this in the chat, because someone had asked me that question, where would they get a copy of the questions? If you look in the chat there, Kim has a link to those book club resources right out of the conference program, and the pages where you'll find those specifically. And I do want to say some of you may not have registered for the conference, and other than receiving a free audio link to the Other West More, every other session from the conference is available at no charge, and they're posted up on the conference website. And so feel free to listen to as many or all of these if you would care to. So we want to make sure you understand that that is open and available to the public.
And I wanted to mention, don't frantically write down all these links out of the chat. You can save the chat at the end, and then you'll have all the hot links. If you don't know how to do that, go into the chat, and there's a box on the right with 3 dots. And if you click on that, it'll ask if you want to download the chat. So I'll just keep posting links in there for you. And then at the end, be sure and save that.
So Megan, were there any other resources that you shared with your staff?
Okay, so Sandra in the chat, she posted a link to LaRon's Stay Connected conversation that he had last year. I love that. I also recently watched that, and it's so good. You guys just got to watch LaRon Henderson. He's awesome. Okay. The next the next video that I want to talk about is also by LaRon Henderson. It's called Coaching for a Change, and it's a really good video for program directors or anybody who's in charge of staff, honestly. In that video, he looks at it as a perspective of a supervisor to a staff member, but I changed that perspective. I used what he was saying, and I compared it from staff to students. He provides a pyramid that I think it's Collective for Youth uses, and it's kind of like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So at the very bottom, it says kids need to feel safe, and then if kids feel safe, and you give them a supportive environment, then you'll get interaction, and then the highest piece of the triangle is engagement. And so he discusses how do we get from safe to engagement, and that's kind of how I used that video. He discusses how we create a safe and supportive environment and what the difference between safe and supportive looked like. And that was important. And he also discussed the difference between interacting and engaging, because we all know that interacting is not necessarily engagement. Okay, so that's how I use that video. I'm done talking about LaRon Henderson. I'm sorry. I can't talk about him enough. Okay, so back to the other Wes Moore. I went on YouTube and I looked up a couple of his like talks that he's just given about his book. And so the first one is called Afternoon of Conversation. And in that talk, he talks about how education matters not just because of what you learn, but who you're learning it from, and the importance of supporting families in order to help kids. Because if it doesn't matter how much help that you give the kiddo at your program, ultimately they spend more time at home. And so we need to support our families in order for our kids to be successful. The second YouTube video that I watched was also Wes Moore. He was on, I think it was Oprah's show. It's on OWN. And it's called Super Soul Sessions. And this talk was super important for my staff, I think, especially my high school kids, because it talks about understanding how the identification of your work, he talks about what work is your passion or your purpose. So how the identification of your purpose, passion, becomes a personal process. And then he discusses how knowing your work focuses you and keeps you engaged. And I think that was a super important stepping piece for my staff, knowing how their passion leads to their job, and their job leads to the success of our program. And the success of our program is the relationships and connections that we have with students and families. The last talk that is a TED Talk. Everybody should have watched this. It's Rita Pearson. Every kid needs a champion. If you have not watched that TED Talk, it is fabulous, and every staff needs to watch it. I have used this video for the entire 5 years that I've been a director. She talks about the better the connection that you have to a student, the more that they can learn from you. And then she also talks about how to create a positive narrative to restate challenges and inspire students to believe in themselves. It's a super awesome, very inspirational TED Talk. Highly recommend it. Okay, so those are all the additional resources that I have used. And I just really quick, you can, type 1 in the chat or whatever, if you have used any of these resources with your staff before, or maybe unmute yourself and let us know if you have used them. How was it received, or how did you use them?
Well, I live in Omaha, Nebraska, where LaRon lives. And those videos you show of him, he uses those with us when we do them. And his videos are always awesome. They're always eye openers, and it's always about yourself. Because if you're not your best self, you can't do things for other people. But we get those videos from LaRon all the time.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, go for it, Jan.
Yeah, no, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, do you have any other, I don't know, just more kind of like the nuts and bolts of how you kind of put all this training together? Because these are all just fantastic sounding resources. So how did you make that into a professional development series?
Yeah, so understanding their why is the basis of all of this discussion. So why are you here? Why is it important for you to be here? Why is it important to the kids that you're here and that you're engaged in them? So what we did was we took all of these, inspirational conversations about the impact that we can have on kiddos, and we discussed that first in a 4-hour um, in-service sort of style, kind of sat down and discussed all of that. Then all the rest of our discussions have happened in our staff meetings. We have a monthly staff meeting. And so we take 30 minutes of that staff meeting and designate it as discussion time, like open discussion time. And that's where we took these perspectives from the book and from these other videos, and kind of we discussed them at that time. So it all relates back to, here's why you're doing this. Here's how, understanding where they're coming from helps you make these positive connections. And then at each meeting we talk about, our one meeting was all about, poverty. And we found out that none of my high schoolers understood what poverty was. They don't live in poverty. And it was like, wow, okay. So it was a great opportunity to talk to our staff about, what are some of the implications of poverty on education, and how do we, when those kiddos come to us at the end of the day and they're tired and they're going to go home and they might not have food at home, and so it was cause for really awesome discussions that grew us as staff members, not just as, I guess, employees, but as people, if that kind of makes sense. I have a quick question though. So we have all these resources out here. Does anybody else have any other resources that they use that would tie into this, or anything that you know of that we might be able to go look at that tie into any of these topics? Okay, well, if you do, if you could just leave a link in the chat for me, I would super appreciate that, because I think the more resources that you bring in, the deeper the discussions can be, and the more engaged that your staff can be. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about those staff meetings really quick. We make sure that in those staff meetings, we allow people to take what they learned and then try it out. So the first couple of questions in that staff meeting is, so how did this last month go? And so anything that we had discussed the previous month, any action plans that we had come up with from those discussions, we return to and we say, how did it go? What worked, what didn't work, and then how, what was the effect of, this conversation, that conversation. So allowing your staff to build on each of these principles is also pretty important, I think. Okay, so not only did our staff read The Other Wes Moore, and it's like, this is a whole organization event. So our organization is not a part of the school. We are a nonprofit that's outside of the school. And because of that, we have a board of directors. So our board of directors also have been involved in all of this. And they also went out and purchased their own copies of The Other Wes Moore and read that after they kind of got hooked up with my enthusiasm of, hey, we're going to do this. So
I was going to ask Megan, because everybody works in a program where there's, like, you have a board of directors or a management team. So how did you get them engaged in the very beginning? Like, what made them want to take that step to go out and purchase the book?
So what I did, we have a board meeting every couple of months, if not every month. And so at our board meeting, I just made sure and made it a topic on our agenda that I talked about what we were doing with the Get Connected After School Conference. And one of the things that I talked about was that we were getting this book and that there was discussion questions that went along with the book. And here's how I wanted to use the book. And so once I kind of explained you know, here's how I want to use the book, they were like, okay, well, that's great, but we need to understand what it is too. And so then they, you know, went out and purchased the books and they read it. And I'll be honest, once they started reading the books, there was a couple of our board members who were not even all the way done the next time that we met. And they were just so excited about the possibilities of how this could affect our staff members and our families because it affects our staff members. So that's kind of how they got engaged. And then I have not had really any issues. Like my staff, especially my high school kids, they love these discussions. They think it's great to come in and get that kind of like teamwork sort of discussion going on about, you know, here's how this kiddo sees this, or here's what I experienced with this family. So and our older, like our kind of community members who are older, they bring in such amazing perspectives because they've lived a lot longer. And so the things that they've, you know, the tactics that they use to work with families and stuff, it's really awesome. It's been a really awesome experience. Let's see. Okay, our oh, I have some at our last staff meeting, I asked our staff, you know, what were some of the impacts that this has had on you? And so the 3 different areas that we talked about were how, you know, impact on how they see their own job, and then how the discussions impacted their connections with students and families, and then how can they apply this outside of their job to the rest of their life. So I just kind of wanted to share some of what they said so that you can see how, you know, the impact that it's had on my staff, and you know, hopefully inspire you to create something that will inspire your staff. So so impact on how you see your job. Cora says, it has made me realize that every kid has a different story. You never know what could be happening in someone's life, so every kid needs patience and kindness. She's a high schooler, so she is at the basic understanding of how to work with kids. Tammy, she is one of my older community members, but she also had recently started working as a para for the school. She said, I can see that I may be the one person who can make a difference in a child's life. You can grow up in the same place, and depending on who you have supporting you, you can turn out to be someone else. Anybody see how that connects back to the book? Some children might not have the best support in their home life. Our program can be the difference in their life, whether it be a comment I make, continued encouragement, or my actions. I could possibly be what helps that child break a continued cycle, like poverty or even abuse and neglect. Amber says, we have to help some kids create positive change in their lives and help them understand how life is shaped by certain decisions. We can help teach kids that are born into difficult situations that they can change their entire lives by taking steps down the right path. The last one for this one is by Buddy. Buddy has been in my program for 3 years. He is one of my, I wish that I could clone this child. He is one of my high school kids, and he came to my program not knowing if he really liked kids, and now he is like going to be a kindergarten teacher. So like, and he graduates this year. So he says, it makes me realize how important it is to teach each kid equally, because they may be in a difficult situation at home or even in the classroom. He says, we are the equalizers. And I loved that. We are the equalizers. Okay, so how did the discussions help them make connections with their students and families? Hannah, who's a high school kiddo, says, they've changed how I approach talking to kids about their families. When I hear about a family's life, I think about how my life is and how I can help inspire them to do the right thing or stay on the positive path in life. So again, these discussions have helped her try to relate to the kiddos. Holly says, I feel our discussions focused on treating each other with compassion. Usually when someone acts out in a negative way, it has more to do with what is happening on the inside. Refocusing on the positive during these times can help change the perspective of our students and families. Many of us who work in the after school program know that the challenging behavior kiddos usually come to us. And challenging behaviors usually also mean challenging situations at home. So making sure that we focus on the positive so that our families can see a bright spot, you know, those are important things. And Holly really has taken off in that direction. She has gone above and beyond. She's reached out to some of our families because of these discussions. She created a connection with one family who is struggling because they're a single parent home and the parent is a dad. So it's a unique situation in our community. And so she reached out to this family and has really made a difference in that family's life because of these discussions, she said. Carolina says, our discussions have shown me that there are some students that need more of the caring side of the staff while others need more of the structured side. Knowing which side they need in their tough moments is the challenge I like to take on each day to help them feel that they are important. I can be the connection that changes the road they are heading down. So I thought that was pretty cool too. Finally, we asked them, you know, how can you apply this beyond your job? And so I have 2 high school kiddos who answered. Cora says, if I could be the one friendly moment in a person's life, then maybe they could change for the better. I want to be a teacher, so remembering this can help me make bigger impacts on those that I teach. So taking it from the program into her college and beyond. Kaylee says, always be aware of those who are struggling and remember that I can be a positive, encouraging influence in their lives. So as you can see, there are like huge benefits and impacts that you can make on your staff and consequently your students and families by having these simple discussions and using these resources. So that's all I have to say. I'll return it to you.
Obviously.
Well, Megan, you had a lot to say.
Impact.
Yeah.
On your staff.
And Megan, and I'll turn this back over to Kim in a second, but I just want to say, Megan, thank you for sharing all these resources and just the way you approached putting everything together for your staff. I know you said all these really glowing comments about LaRon Henderson, and those are all well-deserved, but I would put you up there right along with him, Megan. So great job. Yeah, great job. Kim?
Thank you so much, Megan. That was really great information and a powerful story. Do you mind if I put your email address in the chat in case people have questions? And I'm sure Megan would be thrilled to help you as you think about starting your own book club.
For sure.
So,
and remember, I had another person just send me a private message, but wanting to know about saving the chat. Can it be saved with the video? Once again, there's 3 little dots on the bottom of the chat. If you click on that, you can save the chat to your own computer.
Hey, Jan, the reason I ask is because I'm actually between buildings and on the Zoom call on my phone, so that option is not on my phone.
It's not on my iPad either, and we can only do Zoom on our iPads, and the chat's not. You can't save it on the iPad either.
Holly and Amy, I'll just email it to you. I saved it.
Okay, thank you.
So anyone else that needs it, you can just drop me an email.
Thank you, Kim.
Glad you could join us. Next, the next Stay Connected webinar is going to be February 4th, and all of you that have summer programs are starting your planning. And so we're going to have some of our experienced 21st century program leaders join us and just talk about some of those different models of what a summer program can look like and share some resources with you. So that will be February 4th at noon. Thank you to all of you who joined us today. And Megan, a special thank you for you. We appreciate your time and the work that you're doing. It's very important.
Well, thank you for you and Jan. We all appreciate you two very much.
We'll send a link to the recording to LaRon, and so he'll be able to.
You're so funny.
Enjoy. hearing all the compliments.
I already texted them and told
Oh,
them.
good. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you February 4th, if not before. Bye, everyone.